Good evening. Welcome to the public hearing on the fiscal year 22 proposed budget. If you'd please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And this evening, I'm assuming Ms. Marone is going to be joining us. There you are. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the public hearing of the fiscal year 22 proposed budget and to adopt the 22 proposed budget, pending state board approval. Ms. Marone, do you have anything for us?
No, ma'am. Exactly what you said. We are asking that you formally adopt the fiscal year 22 proposed school budget as presented on May 10th at the board meeting, and it will be pending state board approval.
And just so everybody knows, about when does the state board approval come back? Oh, Ms. Marone, you're muted.
Sorry.
There you go.
It is required to be back by June 30th. Typically, if there would be an issue, you would be notified prior to that, but I don't expect any issues with the budget, and that a formal notification from the State Department will be as of June 30th.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope we get it by June 30th, considering it starts July 1st.
Yeah, well, the official notification, we'll know within a week if there is an issue.
Okay. And do any board members have any questions or comments about the budget that was presented at the prior board meeting?
I do. I guess I misunderstood. I thought there was an email about assistant principal positions. Is that included in your budget?
That is not included in the budget.
So I'm not sure what the purpose of that was.
Well, the purpose of that was 10 years or over 10 years ago, we made a commitment to put vice principals in our elementary schools that were of certain size. And at that time, a needs thing was made up of what
The
rubric was made up of needs. And we put one of those vice principals in 10 or 12 years ago. We were going to do that yearly. As you can see, we did not do that yearly. I think we funded one last year, am I correct? Mm-hmm. And that is the two positions that we funded over 12 years. And we have elementary schools that have close to 500 kids in them, 450 kids, and one administrator, half-time guidance, and part-time nurse. And the demands on those people are quite strong.
Yeah, no, I understood all that in the email. My question is, why did we need that for today? My understanding was that we would be hearing more about this in relation to the budget.
We can make that motion to do that at this time if we feel a need. My only concern is, I think we do have that need, but my concern is we are not sure of how many students we're going to have coming back next year, and I feel a bit uncomfortable with doing that this year with not knowing, with the uneasiness of being down maybe 200 students or somewhere thereabouts, or more or less.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That was my position as well.
I mean, I'd love to sit here and make that motion, but I can't at this time.
Right. And this is a budget. This is just a roadmap of where we think we're going to be. If we can revisit the rubric for the assistant principals, which I think we do need to do, and we need to add those positions, we could do that at any point in time by adjusting the budget. I mean, that does not mean we can't have them at all next year. But as Mr. Osborne said, I think we just need more information in order to do that.
That's correct, and there's a process in place for modifying the budget. It occurs monthly. I think it's the second board meeting that we have budget adjustments that the board would adopt and approve. So if second month enrollment, was successful and we felt the need to add the additional AP position, the process that we would use is that the leadership team would have that on their agenda. We would discuss what funding source we felt was relevant for funding that position. And currently this budget includes $700,000 for a contingency which would qualify for that expenditure, and or we would look at the collaboration of other funds in order to fund any budget adjustment prior to bringing it to the board for approval.
Just to let the public know a little bit, we feel that these vice principals positions are very important because they are our training grounds for people that will become principals someday. And that is one of the reasons that we really have a need, because some of our older principals are retiring and we don't have people trained to replace them.
That's true. What you're saying is true, but it's also true that we need to be bringing more people into those positions. It's been a while that this has been talked about, and some things have been done, but there's a lot more that needs to be done, and the faster, the better.
I agree with you.
Do any board members have any other questions?
Are there any changes from the proposed, that we should know? Any changes? I mean, we went over the proposed budget. Are there any changes from the draft to the?
There are no changes in the total amount. There is a change between retirement and salaries, which is just a line item change between the actual presentation and this budget.
Thank you, Ms. Barone.
You're welcome.
Now, since this is a public hearing and not a regular board meeting, we do allow for public comment and public citizens, and we do have Ms. Karen Buck signed up. If you'd please join us at the podium.
Okay.
And I'll set my timer to 3 minutes if you don't
Okay.
mind.
My name's Karen Buck. I'm a concerned grandparent of a second grader, Blue Ridge. Regarding the budget for next year, I strongly oppose the taxpayer funding of the critical race theory agenda presented by Ms. Tanya Dallas-Lewis at the last board meeting. She is the staff coordinator of your Cultural Diversity and Equity Department. I very strongly oppose the taxpayer funding of any critical race theory program promoting critical race theory, including the Black Math Genius Summer Program and the Ambassador Training Program for students and teachers. I very strongly oppose the taxpayer funding of Tanya Dallas-Lewis' agenda to visit outside universities like Howard University, University of North Carolina, University of Virginia, looking for educators of color rather than educators with great qualifications from West Virginia. This includes the cost of her car, bus, or airline tickets, her motels, meals, gratuities, and overtime pay. I strongly oppose the taxpayer funding of a political operative, Tanya Dallas-Lewis, to visit our schools and indoctrinate our children. I also very strongly oppose the acceptance of any government funding to promote this socialist agenda, which may be offered to this board, or to this Board of Education by the Biden administration. And that goes for the 1619 project as well. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Gilly, do you have any input?
No, I think there's a lot, just to not go into a great bit of detail, I think those folks will need to speak to themselves, but I think there's some miscommunication surrounding the programs that's being offered. Ultimately, it comes down to a program where the school has recognized that a certain group of students has been historically behind their peers, and so they're targeting a curriculum that they believe will help bring them up with their peers. It is not exclusively restrictive to that group of peers. All students have access to those, but we can look at having Tanya Dallas-Lewis and Dr. Gibson could come in and provide some additional clarification in a future presentation. But I do believe there's a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding surrounding the agenda. Ultimately, it comes down to folks recognizing there's some need in the system to support groups of children, just as we always have, and are trying to make sure that we are responding to them. And some of the mislabeling, perhaps, of the name could have been done differently, and so that's created and promoted some misinformation. And so I think we'll work to try to get some of that cleared up for folks in the near future.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments from the board or concerns about the budget?
I guess I just have one more question. Are there any new positions in this budget? I guess the ones that the board had voted on previously, are they showing up in this budget? That's what we're voting on, correct?
Yes,
Aside
yes,
from.
that would include those positions. It actually includes 766.5 professional positions and 490 service positions. But the positions that were discussed, and I don't have that list in front of me, you'd have to ask me specifically, were or are the budgeted amounts are adopted in this fiscal year 22 budget.
I just don't understand, if we don't know how many students we're gonna have, how we can budget out new positions, administrative positions, when we don't know if we can fill our teaching positions. So I just, that's.
Well, the
It's not-
revenue and
it's
the
not
expenditures for the budget is a balanced budget. So those positions are financially capable of being posted and filled. And what we're adopting this evening is the dollar amounts associated with those positions included in this budget. And there's no concern from my end that the budget doesn't balance. Not filling those positions would leave those balances associated with those positions as amounts unexpended. But if they are posted and filled, there is a budget line item for financially incurring those expenditures. I hope that made sense.
Are you saying that they're separate, they're coming from two separate places? These new positions they're coming from a different budget than any positions directly related to students?
No, these positions are budgeted within the proposed school budget. They are budgeted, some are budgeted in our general fund. Some may be budgeted in our Easter funding, but they are all accounted for in the budget that we will adopt this evening.
Okay,
And
thank you.
once again, I mean, this is just a budget, and so we could have put in here that we need, 300 math teachers. But just because it's in the budget doesn't mean we're gonna go out and hire 300 math teachers. Do you see what I mean?
Okay.
It's not necessarily approving a specific position, it's just approving money for those positions in the future.
Okay.
Does that make
We have
sense?
tried to take a look at what our needs may be.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that this can't change if our needs change.
Yeah, I just, from the email that I got, it was old data, and then I looked at the state and I see that there are numbers posted, and so it's confusing when, last minute getting information and trying to piece it all together, anyway. Thank you.
You're welcome, and Dr. Joy, if you have any other questions, please feel free to call me in the office and we can walk through anything that we need to, or if I can help in any way, let me know.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the fiscal year 22 proposed budget pending state approval?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cable. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. All in favor of the proposed budget, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. Ms. Marone, I am very excited. That was the fastest we've had a budget hearing. I know we scheduled it a little earlier this evening than we have in the past, but we actually have a 14-minute break before our next meeting. So this section of the
Nice
meeting is
cracker.
adjourned. Thank you.